I low-key almost forgot how to record stuff since it's been so long. So welcome back. If you're coming back, thanks so much. This is my season 2 opener is what I'm gonna call it, because it's been a long time since I've posted in the podcast world. And if you're new here, thank you so much. My following has kind of grown a little bit since the last time I posted. So if you're new here, welcome to my podcast. This is Kassick's Corner, a place in the internet, a corner of the internet, as I like to say, a little corner of the internet where we can all commiserate, co-celebrate, and engage in the world of teaching and everything that teaching requires, and other stuff that comes up along the way. Sometimes I literally just be yapping. So anyway, thanks for being here. Appreciate you. This is, like I said, my season 2 opener. I kind of don't really have an idea of where to go. I have some notes written down, but low-key, this is going to be kind of a quick episode, he says right at the beginning, not knowing how much he's going to actually yap. But my goal is that this is just like a quick episode to kind of like catch you guys up, because I needed to get back into the zone of this to like reinvigorate my desire to keep doing it, because the part is like the point is I got really distracted with like life and kind of forgot about this. Not necessarily forgot, but forgot to care about this because of the fact that like I really love this part of what I've created on the internet in this past year, right? Where I have a forum where I can just like come on here and talk and like feel safety in like that talking and feel supported in that conversation and engage with you guys in like a new way, right? Like I think my main concern as like an educator and as like a person on the internet is to have a forum that is a one of safety where everyone can come on and just kind of like engage in conversations, right? So I really appreciate doing that. And as I get into what I'm going to talk about today, you'll kind of see like where that's coming from and where I'm hoping to go with that. But this is my favorite thing that I've put on the internet in the past year. So I want to make sure that I keep it going. And in order to like maintain my motivation there and maintain my ability to do so, I really had to start it in the summer while, there's kind of like a little break between things. So this is, I think I posted my last episode. It was about teachers and trust or something. And it was like a long episode and I got into some deep stuff. I'm going to go back into those moments, right? Like I didn't just completely forget about where I was or where I came from or any of that. I am just hoping to like move forward because the break was kind of unplanned. There was nothing. My cat's trying to make it into the frame. So if you're watching on YouTube, which you should be if you're not, because low-key YouTube pays better if I ever get there. So anyway, here he is. He's kind of being annoying right now. Cat interlude over. The purpose of this episode is just to like kind of catch you guys up on where I've been. So I think in March, the last time I recorded something was like on spring break. And if you're a teacher that you're listening to this, which I'm assuming a lot of you are, or a lot of you will be, the idea of March spring break to summer break is just a chaotic time for all of us involved. It's just like not a great time for teachers. We're all tired. We all want to be done. We all want to go home. All the kids are checked out. It's just a rough time. So in order for me to like be engaged in like my actual job and this and on top of grad school, like I just kind of like I decided that something had to give, and unfortunately it was the podcast, but at the time I didn't really have the energy that I wanted in order to like put into this. So yeah, around March, it was a lot of like, end of the year stuff for school. I was interviewing for some new positions that kind of opened up because I'm trying to expand like my horizons in like a new platform, new position, new things like that. Just like the new outlook on things, right? As I'm moving forward, you guys know I'm in grad school, in counseling school. So I was trying to set myself up for the best position to like do everything I need to do in my last year of my grad program next year. It's going to be a busy ass year, let me tell you. And I'll get more into that too. But I wanted to set up all that stuff. So in March, I was like interviewing for jobs. I was like doing spring break stuff. I was finishing up my current semester of grad school. So all of that stuff with like finals and papers and finals for the kids and like IEPs I had to write and process towards the end of the year and just like meetings I had to have and interviews I was doing. I just got like really overwhelmed. And I think if I've learned nothing in my education years, in my years of education as a teacher, is that I do know my limits now and I'm being more comfortable in putting them on myself. Whereas I think the first big portion of my career, which I've talked about on this podcast before, is very much defined by me pushing myself to my absolute limits and not knowing when to stop or not knowing that I could stop. And now I'm learning a lot that it's like, it's okay to put boundaries on yourself. And it's actually even better because then you can show up for yourself a little bit more later, right? So That's what I was doing kind of in March, April, May, June, and then most of July is literally just setting boundaries for myself in order to make sure that I could come back to this in a good space and continue like on my goals going forward. So that's kind of literally all I've been up to. Grad school is going super well. It's exhausting. I think there's a lot in it that I'm learning, which I love learning. I think honestly, and this is gonna be whatever it is, but I always thought like being in school as a student was super easy. I've always learned things super quickly. I have understood the world and information in a different way, and it just like makes everything so much easier as far as like writing papers and taking tests and reading books and like learning information. Like my brain just like it just soaks it up, like it's just right in there, and I just like remember it. Like I don't know what to tell you. So school's really easy. It's overwhelming because I still want to do well and I still put a lot of my pressure myself to do well, but learning and being a student has always been something that has come pretty naturally to me. So even though I talk about like getting stressed with I just my picked up my cat and I accidentally kind of dropped him, so the face that I just made for the YouTube watchers, that was so embarrassing. Y'all in the audio don't even know what happened, and I don't. It doesn't matter. So anyway, school's been really easy for me, even though I am a good student and I understand how to like learn very easily. I think it's still overwhelming because I still have that like essence of perfectionism that I want to do everything like perfectly and in my way, and I want to make sure that I'm not showing myself off as incompetent. Like I have a fear of being incompetent, and if I show that to anybody, that it's just not going to go well to me. Did not want to go any deeper into that, which is why I'm stammering off of that fact. So that's what I've been up to. I think this summer we have grad school classes as well. Like I'm taking 4 classes this summer, so I think that's also been something that's been draining a little bit, and I've just been giving space for that, and also space for like relaxing, because summer as teachers, like we really need that time to recharge. I have 1 more week of these classes, and I have a few papers due. Low-key procrastinating on them right now. I have 3 papers due in the next like 4 days, and low-key procrastinating on them right now. But it's fine. God, my camera, you guys. I'm so sorry to the visual watchers of this. Everyone else, I'm sorry that I keep interjecting my thoughts with random things that you don't fucking understand or care about right now because you're just like not watching it. So anyway, I'm low-key procrastinating, and I'm in a silly, goofy mood because of that fact. So I have a few papers due. My grad school's done for summer, and then I can relax and hopefully record a few more episodes of this before we go into summer, which kind of leads me into like some of the next episodes I have coming up. So if you guys are interested in sticking around, here's some. I think I have like 5 pretty good planned ones that I like have written down that I'm excited to kind of talk about. I think there's always rants and things. I want to start telling stories a little bit more, because one of my big goals with this podcast is to like tell the stories of education and of my students and things like that. So, but definitely like 5 solid episodes that I have coming up that, barring any sort of like passionate excuse that comes up, or like, thing that makes me super angry in the news, or anything in the world that happens that like triggers me, that's just like, what, I need to fucking talk about this. These 5 things are going to be some episodes that are coming up. So I've talked about it a little bit in previous episodes, but I do, and I've listened to other podcasts actually talk about this, where we talk a lot about like students in education, obviously, and for good reason. I'm not saying like we shouldn't, but we don't really talk a lot about like the teachers there, right? And I'm talking in specifically with like their needs and what they need in order to be successful in that place, right? So like students with disabilities, we talk about all the time. We talk about IEPs, we talk about special education, we talk about all these different like needs and advocating and, creating a place for students to like do their best work. But we don't really talk about that in terms of teaching, right? Like what are some accommodations, for example, a teacher might need? What are some things that a teacher might need in order for them to be successful in the classroom and as a teacher and supported by their admin, right? And the one thing that comes up for me in this, right, is like when I was diagnosed with autism, I was talking about like you don't see a lot of, and I'm saying this like very generally, very generically, very like open to the idea that it is a thing, right? Like you don't hear a lot of people talking about how they function with their neurodiversity as a teacher, right? This goes for, people who are autistic like me, or people who have ADHD, or people who have OCD, right? All these different kind of like neurotypes that exist. And those are the big 3, right? But the other neurotypes that exist like in teaching, and we don't have a lot of spaces or platforms that advocate for those teachers. And having been in that position for 8 years and having been a late diagnosed autistic person, like it's very like timely thing for me to talk about, and something that I do have a lot to say, because I feel like had I been comfortable in expressing myself in that way, there is a potential for me to have been more supported, right? And I think that there's a lot to say in that realm for other teachers too, and I think other people who are in a similar position. And I think I want to say at least an episode or two about what it's been like for me to, be autistic and be a teacher and, exist in that world in a way that like a lot of people don't really let them, for lack of a better word, right? So I do really want to talk about that and like what it's like me exploring my position as a teacher, my position as a person, just like with this new late diagnosis, because there's not really a spot on the internet for that. I listen to autism podcasts, which are really super helpful about like the the neurotype in itself, but there's not a lot of like neurodivergent teachers that are out making a platform that I've seen, unfortunately. And I think I want to start talking about that more. And now that I've like, finally not necessarily come to terms with it, but I think I'm getting more comfortable in talking about it to people and just kind of expressing it a little bit more. I think it's often kind of some of that like, and I don't want to relate this to something that is totally different experience and a totally like politicized experience, but in some ways you're like coming out with autism, you know what I mean? It's like every time that, it happens, you have to kind of like advocate for it. And I talk about this in therapy all the time, where it's like, do I come out to people and say like, oh yeah, like, no, I'm autistic, like I need these things? Do I just say the things that I need, right? And where society isn't really set up in a space for us to do either. And, I want to create a space that allows those conversations to happen. That's what Kassick's Corner is about, right? Like safety to express, safety to feel, safety to be passionate about things. So that's one of the topics. Maybe now that I'm talking about it, maybe more than one episode, but definitely one. Definitely at least one. The other thing is there's this concept in my first grad program when I got my first master's degree that was about curriculum design. And I don't remember the main theorist that kind of got me thinking about it, but I have a book and I wrote like an entire curriculum based in like this theory of like the hidden curriculum, right? Like what are the things that we are teaching students that aren't necessarily in the books that we're teaching, aren't in the textbooks, aren't in the, standards? What are the things that we're teaching them that aren't there? And what I mean by that is we're talking about what do the rules in our hallway say, right? Like what does our bell schedule teach students? What does the way we lay out our classroom teach students, right? It's in these little moments in the classroom, like almost like the logistical structural pieces. What are those pieces teaching our students? There is so much like theory there and content there that I have a bunch of stuff planned for an episode about that. And like I said, I've written a couple papers about it way back in my first program. And I think curriculum gets this like nasty word of it's like, oh, curriculum is just like the books that you teach. And it's like, oh, our curriculum is, no. Curriculum is literally how I define it. And I'm going to get into this in the episode, right? Is the curriculum is the learning experience you are creating for your students. So an episode I have planned, right? And what I want to talk about more is it's like, what is that kind of like hidden stuff we're teaching students that is not even something we're outwardly trying to teach them, but what is this in the way that we have morning announcements, in the way that we walk through the hallways, in the way that we post rules, in the way that we are creating clubs, in the way that we talk to our students, right? Like all of that stuff is teaching them things. And because of the way that they are developing, their developmental stage is so open to literally just soaking in information about like who they are and what they're learning and where they are and where their space in the world is, right? That it's like there are so many opportunities for us to change the things that we are teaching just by changing like almost this like logistic side of things, right? And like I said, I have a lot more written about this, and this is not very concise right now, but it's this idea of what are we teaching our students that we don't really know that we're teaching them? And I think there's a lot to say. There's a lot to say there. Next this is kind of a running list because I think this list will change, right? But I guess I could make an episode for like each paper that I've written so far in grad school. I think not necessarily my early ones. Like my first degree was a lot more about like, I did a lot of English-based stuff where it's more about like books and it's about English education. It's about literacy. Like there's a lot of podcasts about literacy instruction. There's a lot of podcasts about the theory of teaching literacy and English in general, and like books. There's book clubs and there's everything, right? There isn't a lot of what I see of like really good analysis on like the research that's happening in education. And a lot of the stuff I'm doing right now in counseling is very applicative to the world in which we live, because counseling is so much more engaged with like the community and how we can help them grow. Ugh, I'm so sorry. Coughing warning. Post cough. I know that actually doesn't help. Let me get some water so that doesn't happen again. I'm so sorry. That was so disrespectful. Hopefully the mic cut out my drinking sounds, because if I were listening to a podcast that had that, I would absolutely end it. So, as I was saying, I think a lot of what counseling is, it's a lot more grounded in the community, and it's a lot more grounded towards advocating for students, which in the current educational and political climate that we're in, like, that is the main goal that all educators should have, right? Is that we're all sort of advocating for our students in a new way. And I think counselors have a unique look on that experience. And I've written a lot of really cool papers that have like cool ideas that I want to share, because like otherwise what's the point, you know? Like, I'm just writing these papers to who? Like a professor that's going to give me a grade, right? And it's literally just a grade for checking a box at this point. So I'll those. There's one really big idea that I have that recently I was listening to a cult of pedagogy podcast about restorative practices and how they work in the classroom. And I was listening to that and I was taking notes. I was agreeing with things. I was wanting their ideas to go so much farther than where they are, because I have so many things that I can, one, directly relate to, and two, just like want to talk about, because I think that the idea of restorative practices is so misconstrued and it's so misunderstood and it's so misrepresented and misinformed, and it's not incorporated the correct way into schools. But this cult of pedagogy podcast episode had like two knowledgeable professionals in the field, and they were able to talk about these things in a way that I know it makes sense through my trainings, through my graduate programs, through all the work I've done in education. And I just wholeheartedly agree with almost everything they said. And I'm going to go into that in my idea for probably my next episode, to be honest, once I find a place to like print it and annotate it and like show you guys what it actually means. My cat's rubbing against the mic, sorry, to show you guys everything that it like means. I think that's going to be like my next episode, because I have such, and I guess this was a sign that I should have been a counselor all along, but I have such a place in my heart for like these restorative practices and everything they bring to the field and everything they can bring to a student in the classroom. Like my life and my experiences as a teacher would have been so fucking different if I never went to those restorative practices trainings. I would have never done circle time. I would have never had the relationships with students that I do. I feel like I wouldn't have had the confidence in what I was doing as a teacher. I feel like I wouldn't have made the impact that I made. I feel like I wouldn't have the confidence to do what I did as a teacher. And I feel like I would have missed out on like the opportunity to like find this calling in counseling that without restorative practices, like I would not be the teacher that you see yapping in front of you right now. And I think I just want more teachers to know about it, and I want more teachers to know about how to do it well, because a lot of us don't. Last but not least is I do want to talk about a little bit of like what my goals are in general, right? Like I did a paper recently, and this one's less exciting to talk about as far as like advocating for students in the profession, but we did a paper recently. I'm in a career development class, and the idea of there is like to talk about like counseling as, like guidance counseling, and like, oh, how do you help someone become what they want to be, right? Like in a professional and, in their work. And one of them was like, what are your career goals? And I was like, I don't sir, like, I don't know, like, what are my career goals, right? Like, what do I want to do? And I think this podcast is a great place for me to start in considering what those are, because in that paper I wrote about what I want to do for like a career. And it's like, I want to stay in education. I love education. I love teaching. I love the impact it's able to make. I love the idea of the potential it has. I love all of these things, all of these different things about education. And I see myself continuing in education, but in these past, like, I've been in teaching for 10 years. In these past, like, 10 years, I have always just, like, wanted more, right? Like, I've always wanted to do more, to make a bigger difference. Like, recently I've been, okay, what if I run for the school board of where I live? Like, what if I run for the school board in the city that I live? Like, that's a good change, right? What if I, build this platform and I go out and speak at conferences? What if I, finally get published in the book that I want to? Like, all of these different things can make such a bigger difference in the world, because I feel like my next step isn't just 15 more years in the classroom, right? Like, I feel like I would be fine. I would be happy. I would make a difference. I would make an impact. I would do everything I need to do. And I would be totally happy with that. But I feel like I feel like there'd be missing something. And I think for a long time I've realized this. Like, my first school, I think, 2 or 3 years in, I think I realized that it's like, I am going to outgrow this school. And then, it took me 6 more years to do so, but I outgrew it because that school is limiting me. Like in 2020, when I worked there, I had a bunch of TikToks saved in my drafts, and becoming a teacher on TikTok in 2020 was a lot easier than being a teacher on TikTok in 2025 when I finally had the safety and freedom to do so. And if I would have started posting those videos in 2020, like, I think I would have outgrown that school much faster, and I would have created the platform I wanted much faster. And everything happens for a reason. Like, I'm not saying I wish I could go back in time and like fix it and change it and like actually post the videos, because everything worked out the way it needed to. But the purpose here is saying that like I was always going to outgrow that, and I think I'm going to outgrow one singular school. Like, I still want to be a teacher. I want to be a counselor. Like, I've loved special education so far. Like, I can do so many things in the classroom that I can find a space in a school with it. And next year, like, I'm really excited about the position that I have, and I'm really excited about the school I'm going to for the first time in a while. Like, I feel like actually supported and fulfilled and excited to go into this new space. And even then, maybe someday I'll outgrow that. Maybe someday I won't. Maybe someday I will be able to, branch out a little more. And maybe someday that I'll finally be able to like grow into the sphere that I want to, right? And I think all that to say is like, maybe that'll happen in this podcast, maybe that won't. But this podcast is my forum to do the things that I want to do, is speaking about education and advocating for education and showing people what it's really like, because I feel like it doesn't get that rap all the time. Like, sure, I come on here and complain, right? But it's like, I also come on here and like tell you the joy of it. And I tell you how much I care about it and how much I value it. And I have a whole book ready to go about stories of students and their worlds and how their worlds have changed me and how I've hopefully changed theirs. And I think that piece of education is so truly unspoken for, that how can we not have somebody go out and do it, right? And I just really want to be that person. And I'm not saying that I'm the one that needs to be, but as we talk about goals, that's what I'm trying to do. And I'm gonna start here. So welcome to season 2 of Kassick's Corner. I think that was a pretty good warm up to what this season will inspire and to what I hope to get out of it. And as we go into the next few episodes, please, engage in the comments. Please reach out. Please slide into my DMs. They're open. Please just talk to me. This sounds so desperate. Actually, I take it all back. I take it all back. It sounds like I'm begging, and maybe I am, but it's anyway. Reach out, leave a review, leave a comment. I appreciate you. I'm super proud of you, and I'll see you in the next episode. I'll see you in the next one, you guys. Thanks so much for hanging out.